The mocking laughter of my family still echoed in my ears as I carried my crying 4-year-old son away from my father's lavish backyard barbecue. He had just pulled a plate of food away from my little boy, sneering that such treats were reserved only for his real grandchild, while my siblings chuckled at our humiliation. I calmly held my son's small hand, walked him out of that toxic estate, and treated him to a peaceful dinner at a local restaurant, completely shutting the door on my cost. But when my father's entire commercial empire collapsed into a legal nightmare just hours later, his frantic calls began flooding my phone, forcing me to send a single, final text message. It's too late now. My name is Kayla Wood. To understand how a simple backyard holiday gathering turned into a scene of physical exclusion and absolute financial warfare, you have to comprehend the deep, systematic delusion that governed my family for over 30 decades. Our family lived in a grand, historic estate in the exclusive suburb of Oak Ridge Crest, a place where public prestige, material wealth, and social lineage dictated your entire value as a human being. My father, Harrison Wood, was the proud, tyrannical founder of Wood Environmental Designs, a highly successful regional commercial landscaping and civil development enterprise. He was a man completely consumed by his public reputation, his business legacy, and an unhealthy obsession with genetic bloodlines. From the moment we were children, Harrison made it abundantly clear that my younger sister Tara was the undisputed golden child and the absolute center of his universe. Tara was beautiful, manipulative, and thoroughly spoiled, treated like a princess who could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the adopted daughter. My parents had struggled with fertility for years before adopting me at the age of 3. But the moment Tara was born biologically, just 2 years later, my status in the household overnight shifted from a beloved daughter to an inconvenient legal obligation. While Tara was gifted elite private school educations, luxury vehicles, and massive trust funds, I was systematically treated as a second-class citizen who should be eternally grateful for the basic scraps of food and shelter they provided. Despite the emotional isolation, I poured my entire soul into my education, earning dual master's degrees in civil engineering and sustainable landscape architecture. When I joined my father's firm, thinking my professional merit would finally earn his respect, I was instantly pushed into a cramped back office. I was given the heaviest workload in the company, tasked with quietly designing the complex municipal blueprints that won our company its most lucrative municipal contracts, while Tara was handed a vice president title and a luxury corporate credit card for doing absolutely zero work. My father paid me a mere fraction of the industry standard, constantly reminding me that my employment was simply an act of family charity and that I would never inherit a single share of his corporate legacy. 5 years ago, my life took a profound turn when my dearest childhood friend passed away in a tragic accident, leaving behind a newborn baby boy named Leo. With no other relatives to care for him, I stepped forward without hesitation and legally adopted Leo, raising him with all the love and devotion in my heart. My family's reaction to my decision was unbelievably hostile. My father openly declared that a child with no biological connection to the Wood bloodline would never be recognized as a true grandchild, prohibiting me from bringing Leo to formal family portraits or holiday dinners. Tara, who had recently given birth to her own son Mason, took every opportunity to mock my child's background, ensuring her son was dressed in expensive designer labels while treating Leo like an unwelcome intruder. I endured their cruelty in silent dignity, focused entirely on protecting my little boy and building a secure life for the two of us. What my family didn't realize during those long years of quiet disrespect was that I had been quietly constructing my own independent escape route. Using the private consulting fees I earned from external municipal design audits, I established a boutique environmental engineering firm called Meridian Green Solutions, keeping my ownership hidden behind a secure legal trust. Over the course of 3 years, I successfully developed and registered several highly exclusive, federally protected patents for urban water runoff filtration systems. These advanced biofiltration networks were completely revolutionizing the civil engineering sector, and I held the sole, independent intellectual property rights to them. The tension between my independent life and my family's toxic delusion finally exploded on a warm Sunday afternoon during our annual family barbecue. My father had hosted the event at his lakeside estate to celebrate his company's pre-qualification for a massive $50 million municipal botanical park project. The entire extended family was in attendance, along with several local politicians and wealthy real estate developers Harrison was desperately trying to impress. The outdoor patio was elegantly decorated, featuring a massive stone bar, imported leather lounge chairs, and a private catering staff preparing gourmet food. My 4-year-old son, Leo, had spent the afternoon playing quietly by himself in a small corner of the yard, completely ignored by his cousins and grandparents. Around late afternoon, he walked up to the main serving station near the outdoor grill, his eyes wide as he looked at a fresh, golden platter of hand-cut fries the chef had just placed on the counter. He politely reached up, his tiny fingers barely touching the edge of the plate, and softly asked my father if he could have some fries. Harrison's face instantly hardened with cold, aristocratic disgust. In full view of the entire gathering, he reached out and violently snatched the platter away, pulling it far out of Leo's reach. He looked down at my trembling son and sneered, "Step back, Leo. These high-end refreshments are only for my real biological grandchild, Mason. You don't have the wood blood in your veins, so you don't get to enjoy the privileges of this family." Instead of intervening, my sister Tara burst into a cruel, mocking laugh, nudging her husband as she pointed at Leo's crestfallen face. Within seconds, the surrounding relatives and guests joined in the laughter, treating my young son's humiliation as a humorous display of family hierarchy. Leo's bottom lip began to tremble, and hot, silent tears rolled down his cheeks as he looked around the yard in absolute confusion and shame. I felt a wave of absolute, freezing clarity wash over my entire being. The last lingering shred of maternal or filial obligation I had toward these people completely withered away. I walked over to the patio, stepped directly between my father and my son, and scooped Leo up into my arms. I didn't scream, I didn't launch into a chaotic public argument, and I didn't waste a single drop of my energy trying to explain to my father how monstrous his behavior was. I simply looked Harrison dead in his cold, arrogant eyes, gave him a slow, pitying smile, and walked straight out of the backyard. I strapped Leo securely into his car seat, climbed behind the wheel of my sedan, and drove far away from that toxic estate. I took my son to a quiet, welcoming local diner down the highway. We sat in a cozy booth, ordered a giant platter of the best fries in town, and spent the evening laughing, talking, and enjoying the absolute peace of each other's company. As I watched Leo's smile return, I made a silent, unshakable vow. My family would never, under any circumstances, have the opportunity to hurt my child again. What my father Harrison was completely oblivious to was that his arrogance had blinded him to a catastrophic legal vulnerability in his $50 million municipal project bid. The City Council had recently passed a strict environmental mandate requiring any developer bidding on the Botanical Park project to utilize the exact biofiltration water runoff patents that I owned through Meridian Green Solutions. Harrison, fully expecting me to submissively hand over my intellectual property designs, as I had always done in the past, had submitted his official corporate bid to the city using my protected designs without my legal authorization or signature. He had literally forged my engineering seal and corporate consent forms on the government application, confident that his quiet, underpaid daughter would never dare to challenge him. Just 2 hours after I walked out of the family barbecue, my independent legal counsel officially filed a formal patent infringement notice and a corporate cease and desist demand directly with the city's municipal selection committee. We attached indisputable proof that Wood Environmental Designs did not possess the legal rights, licensing, or consent to utilize the patented biofiltration systems listed in their project bid. Furthermore, we submitted a certified affidavit exposing the blatant forgery of my professional engineering seal on their application documents. By 7 o'clock that evening, the City Council held an emergency executive session to review the legal challenge. Realizing that Harrison's firm had committed severe document fraud and patent infringement on a federal municipal application, the selection committee immediately disqualified Wood Environmental Designs from the $50 million contract. To make matters worse, because Harrison had already secured massive, high-interest commercial bridge loans from his primary institutional lenders based on the fraudulent assumption that the project was guaranteed, the immediate disqualification triggered an automatic default clause on his corporate credit lines. Within 3 hours, his company's bank accounts were legally frozen, and his creditors demanded immediate repayment of millions of dollars in outstanding debt. My phone began to vibrate violently on the diner table around 8:30. I looked down to see my father's name flashing repeatedly on the screen. I declined the first call, then the second. Within 20 minutes, my phone was flooded with 15 missed calls in a series of increasingly frantic text messages from both Harrison and my sister Tara. They went from demanding my immediate presence to pleading with me to answer, realizing that their entire life's work was slipping away into absolute ruin. I took a slow sip of my drink, watched Leo happily coloring on a paper placemat, and opened the final text message from my father. It read, "Kayla, please pick up. The city has frozen our bid and the bank is threatening to liquidate the entire company. We need you to sign the environmental consent forms right now to save us. I'll pay you whatever you want. Please, we are family." I didn't call him back. I didn't waste a single word on his desperation. I simply typed out 5 cold words, hit send, and permanently blocked his number. It's too late now. The financial devastation that struck my family over the next several weeks was a masterclass in swift, poetic justice. Without the municipal project to secure their financial future, Wood Environmental Designs completely imploded. The commercial banks moved quickly to liquidate Harrison's corporate assets to recover their outstanding loans. Every single luxury vehicle company, their expensive office equipment, and the sprawling corporate headquarters were seized and auctioned off to the highest bidder. My father was forced to file for total corporate and personal bankruptcy, completely destroying the public reputation he had spent his entire life sacrificing his integrity to protect. The legal consequences were even more severe. The state licensing board launched a formal investigation into the forged engineering seal on the municipal application. Harrison was stripped of his professional development licenses and faced heavy civil penalties for document fraud. My sister Tara's lavish lifestyle completely evaporated overnight. Her expensive sports cars were repossessed from her driveway, and without her father's corporate treasury to fund her spending, she was forced to sell her high-end home and move into a cramped, rented apartment in a run-down part of the city. The relatives who had laughed so heartlessly at my son's humiliation suddenly found themselves completely blacklisted from the local business community, their association with my family's fraudulent company making them utterly toxic to potential employers. Meanwhile, the city council officially awarded the entire $50 million botanical park project to my independent firm, Meridian Green Solutions. My brilliant team of ethical, hardworking engineers and I took complete control of the development, executing the project with absolute transparency and unmatched professional skill. I relocated Leo and myself to a breathtaking historic home surrounded by peaceful, rolling green hills, completely insulated from the toxic malice of the people who shared my biological blood. The true trajectory of your life changes the moment you realize that your worth as a parent and a professional is entirely independent of the toxic systems that seek to exploit your talents while dismissing your humanity. True emotional independence means establishing an unyielding boundary between your peace and the parasitic demands of those who share your DNA. Recognizing that a child's dignity is a sacred trust that can never be bartered for the false promise of familial approval. When people show you that their love is purely transactional and reserved only for those who satisfy their narcissistic ideals, do not waste your youth trying to fit into their narrow boxes. Simply walk away into the abundance of your own independent creations. Build your empire on foundations of genuine integrity, and let your absolute success be the quietest, most devastating answer to their entitlement. Protect your peace, cherish the family you choose, and never look back at the darkness you successfully outgrew.